Welcome to this episode of HCTalk. I am your host, Lance Gormley.
And I'm your co-host, Sissy C.
HCTalk is an HCD podcast.
Tell us what's happening, Harvey County.
Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Sissy. How was your week this week, Sissy?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. I know there's a lot been going on around.
Sure enough.
Please tell me you've been out enjoying the nice days, because I know we're kind of hitting and missing here.
Right.
So, but I mean, for Kansas weather, I am loving spring. Spring is on its way, and I'm ready for it.
Right. And windy weather has arrived.
Yeah, there's a little windy. It's all right. Nice strong breeze from the south. Never hurt nobody.
Right.
Yeah. So let's pray for some rain.
Right.
Let's hope that we have a good rainy season for all the farmers out there.
Indeed.
But as always, Sissy, I know we have some public notices. So
We do.
Let's hear what we got.
All right. So we're going to have the Burton City Council meeting Monday at 6 p.m. Burton City Hall meeting at Burton City Hall, located at 203 North Burton Avenue in Burton. And also in Burton, the school board is going to be meeting on Monday at 7 p.m. The board meets at 105 East Lincoln in Burton. And as always, the Harvey County Commission is meeting Tuesday at 9 a.m., as it does every week, at the courthouse. And the courthouse is located at 800 North Main Street in Newton.
Speaking of stuff, I was getting ready to ask you what else is happening in Harvey County, but I would like to say something. I wonder how many people are still showing up to the county commission meetings.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of that.
No, I don't know. It's usually has its wakes and tides, depending
Right.
upon issues, which is normal. But I hadn't heard a whole lot about that. I've heard a whole lot about other things locally in the community that's kind of got people's attention more than anything they're doing right now. So I don't know what's happening in Harvey County this week.
Well, there's lots of things going on. USD kindergarten enrollment's coming up.
Oh, nice.
That's, of course, for Newton.
Better
I know.
enrolled.
Right. Be looking ahead at the next year. I know there's some spring sports stuff happening around the county. And last week was the garden show, which I'm sure that was a big success. We do have some upcoming events here through summer. So be watching the local announcements here and there. We'll try to update those as much as we can if we see those. I do know that the Mason Lodge is going to be doing a pancake feed the same day as the Newton Car Show. And I believe that might be the first weekend in May. And also Sand Creek Summer Days is going to be coming up.
Yes.
They're already putting out some good information on the local city groups, county groups.
So you start seeing some of those programs, so in a little bit of action, because it's getting
Right.
close to the nice time. And you know, the nice thing about the car show even is the Friday night before, if people aren't aware, you can just go down to Main Street, sit on Main Street and watch tons. They have Friday night cruise.
Okay.
So
okay.
yeah, and
Midway Motors, I believe, is having a hamburger fundraising event.
Yeah.
Maybe the night before the car show. I'm gonna have to check that date. Maybe
yes.
that's up on the
I think
Facebook.
it's the cruising night. And we do need to check that because we want to give Midway a shout out again for once again, just always investing in those awesome things within our community that are specific to our community.
That's right.
You know, it's a Newton downtown car show.
That's right. Mhm. Right.
So
right.
and also I know that's actually started to get quite a bit of traction outside of Newton. I mean, people come from Wichita and other areas to be able to come down here and cruise on Friday night and have their car in a car show the next day. So
That's right.
Beautiful downtown. Love Newton. One of the unsung gems of Newton is our old downtown, and love it. Just love it.
Right. And also on the 7th of April, which is coming up pretty quickly for celebrate the Easter festivities around the area, there's going to be an Easter egg hunt, and I believe I am at a loss on the location and the time, but the Kansan, I believe, had an article this weekend in the Saturday paper about that. So I'm sure there's other events going on. I just happened to see a little blip about an Easter egg hunt. So take all the kiddos out there on the 7th.
Yeah, and a lot of things we talk about is in the Kansan. I mean, you know, everybody in the community is reading the papers just like us. Everybody in the community is able to access the same information that we are throughout the course of the week, right? And then we just have a way of, I don't know, people like to reach out and talk to us and tell us all kinds of things about what they want covered. I mean, there's some things, it's almost getting to the point where this one program is not enough, Sissy.
Wow. Well, yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that people really want us to cover that are legitimate that we could spend some real time on, and we just don't. And I mean, once again, not to go bragging or anything, but I keep waiting for this thing to slow down and it just starts speeding up. I mean, we're broken 1,100 followers this week. There's a lot that's just moving in the right direction.
That's right.
I'm getting a lot of calls from people that want to be part of the program, want to sponsor the program, really like what we're doing. And I'll just say it's nice to know that there are people in the community that are listening to the program, that are engaged in what's going on, that are really enjoying consuming information from this platform and this program. So thank you very much. We can't thank you enough. Keep listening, keep engaging. And speaking of Midway Motors, I've got a special announcement to make.
Okay.
If you like this episode, share this episode, follow our Facebook page, comment on our Facebook page. We have all of this data. So if you, with this episode, share, like, comment, follow our YouTube, whatever platform you prefer, you get to go get put into a hat. And we're going to pick one lucky winner for a free oil change at Midway Motors.
Woohoo.
One winner out of all of those. You can do any of those things. And we will put everybody's name into a hat, more or less, and one person will get picked. And that person will have a free oil change, one free oil change from Midway Motors.
How cool is that?
So sending a shout out to Midway Motors because they're just doing that.
Yeah.
You know, and we will have that announced at Friday night, Midway Motors car show. Well, on the Friday night of the Midway Motors car show.
Well, there you go,
or
folks.
the Midway Motors burger. We have time between now and then.
Yeah. So engage, like, share, comment, all those things Lance just said. Hit us up. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love for you to be put into the drawing for the free oil change thanks to Midway Motors.
Yep, and that's you got some time.
That's
so
right.
If you haven't, do it. And if you didn't realize that you might have missed the opportunity, you still got plenty of time.
That's right.
Plenty of time, almost a month.
And also, we are going to be having a Who is Sissy C segment starting out this week.
Oh, yeah.
And for the big reveal at some future date of who Sissy C really is.
Well, I figured they could pick you out of the crowd after the last time we talked about what you look like.
Well, you know.
Not everybody's got tattoos all over their face.
Right, and a bedazzled eye patch.
I mean, come on.
Come on.
You are OG original.
That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
from the way back in the days.
Right. So before the end of the episode, there will be some clues provided
as to whose is you's.
That's right.
All right. So let's be more serious. We got to get down to, man, there was a lot happening this week. We talked about some things coming up. We talked about some things that had happened, but I almost want to go dum dum dum.
Right.
Getting down to, it seems like, the bees of the business.
Right. So I'll start with a little bit of some tidbits. If you have a parent, or if you have a child in the school district, parents were notified of a network security incident last week by the USD 373. And a lot of the folks interacting on the social media and just basically conversation was afoot, wondering if it was a hack or was it something else, right? And there's been a lot of news about schools lately and security issues, things like that. Now, I'm going to say I'm confident as a parent with a child in this school district that we do not have security issues.
Yeah. We're fortunate.
We are very fortunate.
We could always do better, but we're fortunate.
That's right. And, these things come up, whether it be a bad actor wanting to infiltrate and gain information. We know that the school has said that the information was not compromised or obtained by these bad actors. So, there's a moment where people can rest assured that everything is still completely secure. And this was just something that people have to deal with this day and age in the digital age. And while researching all of this, I came across an interesting thing about swatting. Now, I had heard about swatting, and I don't mean like swatting a fly. I mean like someone calling in a false report of an emergency. And I found some information about the FBI report in 2022, how it kind of works. And so if you're not familiar with it, like I was not completely familiar with it, the people that are doing these things have a spoofed phone number, and that means that they're using a decoy number or a fake number to call into a local dispatch center and get the law enforcement SWAT team or as much firepower, so to speak, or as many officers they can, because it's a serious response, right? Yeah. Like, say, a hostage situation or, something along those lines.
Somebody's got a gun.
Right.
Right, of course, because if you have a gun,
it's a big deal,
and you enter
right?
a gun into the situation, the police are going to show up prepared to deal with this unknown reason for somebody to have a gun.
Right. And I think it's really important for people like myself, when I was researching this, it kind of blew my doors off because, you want them to respond and take every threat to public safety as absolutely credible, right? And so that's the harm that these swatting calls do. Because the FBI determined that most frequently these swatting calls are being made by forces outside of the United States even, which is incredible to me that someone would care so much to cause so much chaos and potential harm.
Well, okay. We usually stick to this kind of thing in the second part of the program.
Right,
So but I'm just to speak to this, okay? If you think about just trying to upset a country, let's say, or a community, whatever, what's the number one way you can do that? By costing them a lot of money.
Sure.
So when you think about the potential of a police response, the trauma that might create in anybody's mind, the officer showing up thinking that this is legitimate, the people that are there watching the officer show up that have no idea what's going on and obviously now think this is legitimate, and the whole mess that you can make of all that. How much money does that cost? And then times that by 1,000 and then do that 365 days a year and then realize that that's a lot of money. And I'm not saying that it happens that much, but it's just another way to cyber warfare. Mm-hmm. Just cyber warfare. But anyway, we cover that stuff in the second part of the program. But I'm all ears. I'm listening.
Right. Well, I know that the school has put out information, right? Media relations information about this particular situation and that the investigation is ongoing, right? But that law enforcement was contacted. There's a forensic specialist group that's looking into this, things like that. So, they're going through and due diligence, right? But and I'm not saying that this situation for USD 373 was a swatting call, right? Because obviously that's a different thing,
right? But still, same vein. I see what you're saying.
Right.
It's not too much of a stretch to say, this is a situation that's happening in a cyber weird way,
right?
And I'll say it's important to send a shout out to USD 373 because I think a lot of what happens during these kind of situations, especially with the one that just recently did, when there's a security breach per se, it's best to shut the whole system down. I would think. I'm not an IT person. I doubt that it would be good to let the person continue to have access, or whoever or whatever have access. In today's day and age, it could be AI, but still yet. I think a quick response is best for that. Quick identification, quick response, shut it down. Maybe the reason nobody was at school is because we weren't going to try to risk keeping everything up online and operating, which would just further jeopardize. I mean, I don't know. I haven't any inside track on any of this. I just think it's important to think about that and to say, hey, shout out.
Absolutely. Well, and part of the
keeping our kids safe.
Right. And that's part of the due diligence. I mean, you have to go through and tick all the boxes in the investigation side of it, right? But to keep the kids at home in their safe environment and keep them away from potential harmful environment, depending on what was transpiring, what was affected, things like that, that is what really pleased me as a parent, is that, it's just like we talked about last episode. We talked about the brief standoff, and the two were taken into custody without incident in a residential neighborhood. And we really championed the police response and their paramount thought of public safety. Well, this is the same kind of situation. So I think I said all that to say, as a parent, I know that USD 373 and the other county schools really do take the care of our children when they're not with us very seriously. And that makes me proud of our school, and proud to have my child participate in that district.
And then, everybody knows I'm kind of the city guy, right? I was watching the city commission meeting because I'm kind of expecting something to be determined when it came to the utility rates issue.
Right.
And I've done the best I can at watching these, understanding. If I have questions, I go back, I look, I do the thing. I'm really researching this and looking and spending the time it takes to go through these work sessions and everything that I can get from it. And this last meeting, a lot of that was explained. I thought that was good. And I really appreciate the fact it was almost like I was waiting for them to make a decision, but they didn't make a decision.
Right.
And I thought, man, once again, this just proves that we are working with staff in a commission that wants to make the right decision. And they realize that it affects everybody in the community, that this has been an issue. I think they're utilizing very well people are interested in this issue, right? And it's kind of working into a way, if people want to, they can be educated about this. And they're still waiting to make a decision. I think maybe for people to process it, to further have conversations about it before they make this decision. And that's a complete difference from the past. And I just, once again, as the guy that sits here and watches the city commission,
right?
That's really, I appreciate that. And you had talked about something that you really appreciated, because I know you were watching the school board pretty heavy. I was watching it, but you were messaging me during it and everything. And I know that was one of the things that you said you wanted to cover today. But just on the city part of it, before we go over and cover the Walton, man, I got to send a shout out to Luke Edwards.
Absolutely.
Maybe we're getting the cart before the horse here, because, we're not telling the reason why, but just the fact that he went to the last city commission meeting as a school board representative and said, we had to make some tough decisions. And the one thing that I want to make sure that I'm doing is everything I can to make sure that I reach out to you guys to make a decision, right? To help us.
Right.
Please, whatever you want to say. And then that's great that there can be a partnership there. I mean, I see some really cool things happening. And just the fact that he went and did that, took time to do that, is good. And that's like kind of like putting your money where your mouth is. I mean, that's I'm going to get in trouble for making gender reference, but that's the man thing to do.
The man thing.
Well, I mean, it's like you're looking for a stand-up guy, right? In my mind, maybe you're looking for a stand-up gal. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking for a stand-up gal at times. I'm looking for a human being that's a stand-up individual. So when you're talking about what he did, going to the city, trying to make sure that conversation was started, to know that commissioners were open to that.
Right. And that being to look at the ordinances, to see if the animals can come, to do Walton-like project-based learning here. And I got to tell you, I actually did not know that Luke was going to go to the city commission. I was so grateful to have him go there and start that conversation, like you said. And, so rest assured out there, folks, that, we are serious when we advocate, we champion these programs. It's not gonna, go away. We're going to keep going forward because I think a lot of us, the majority of people, I think actually see these programs as very beneficial for all.
Yeah, and this is what's one thing that you just got my mind going, and I'm Mr. Optimistic and positivity, right, and a visionary and a future person. You know, I want to be able to plant that tree that maybe somebody will be able to hold their grandkid in when I'm dead and gone, right? And they don't even know my name and some grave somewhere. Mm-hmm. But the idea behind this is that we all know Walton's going to be closed down. We got a little bit of gruff about it when we made the announcement. The person made the announcement, and I don't think it was too premature, right? I think it was spot on. There is a little bit of process that has to go through before this actually happens. Formalities. But I'm trying to reach out to people and say, hey, I realize that this might not be what you want, okay? That this hurts. I understand this. I mean, I get it, okay? I get it. I'm not... out here not affected, right?
Exactly.
But I'm looking at it like, okay, now's the time in which we need to take this energy and we need to move forward with it and say, well, by goodness, 90% of what's happening in Walton needs to be employed here at our elementary schools.
Right.
And I'm starting to think about this, and I'm like, I almost kind of made a joke about it because there was a couple people that were really talking about there's no place to have this Walton here, this and that. So I start kind of breaking down their process, and I might be totally wrong, but I'm going to go out here on a limb. The reason so much acreage is required is because of what you're raising. Anybody knows that? That's farming 101, right? Okay. So if there are certain aspects of the program, in my opinion, I'm going to make a joke about it. Well, God, I hope I don't get just forgive me for making a joke about this, but drop the cow.
Right.
Let's drop the cow, and can then we take and move that whole program over into our elementary schools? Well, okay. Well, what about we can't have a pig at every one of them, but we can have a pig at one of them, and Mr. Pig could go on rides.
Oh. Field trips.
Once a week, Mr. Pig could go to
roving Mr. Pig.
Man, and kids can learn something new in a little 10-minute blip that's conducive to their. I mean, I'm seeing a vision here.
Well, I got your vision.
They can all have bunnies.
Yeah.
They can all have chickens. Mr. Rabbit. They can all have chickens. They can all have, and you want to know why I know this? Because I know, like at Southbreeze, neighbors of Southbreeze have them.
That's true.
So you can have chickens. You can have bunnies. You can have, what else can we have? Sheep.
Oh.
Okay. And I'll tell you this from being a shepherd in the past, you raise sheep on a sheep farm, to be very skittish of people. So they stay in a herd together, right? You want to stay in a flock. Okay. That's how you flock them.
Right.
Okay. I'm not, okay. Right. So as you're moving these, well, if you don't raise a sheep with that kind of mentality, I hate to say it, then they're quite friendly and want to be like, chill. I mean, they really are chill, right? So it's not like these animals are problematic. They're actually very good. Gardens, the whole thing. Like we can now implement the one, and I'm going to be optimistic here. The one hang up that we had before was that people wanted to keep that centrally located in one area, which only benefited a certain group of people. And that was my biggest problem.
Right.
But now that obstacle is no longer there, then I want to see everybody in Newton proper, along with people that want to support this program, wanting to work in unison together to be able to offer all of our children this program.
That's right.
Heck, surely there's enough room somewhere in one of our schools somewhere for a cow.
Well, I thought we were dropping the cow.
Okay, I don't know. I want to die on the hill, but yes, we could go with Mr. Pig. And I know I'm kind of monologuing here, but I'm seeing a vision of what we can accomplish if we just get together to get this done. And I would help lead it. I'm looking for ways, how can I plug in? Who do I know? How can I bring these partners together to be able to say, K-State Research and Extension Office has something to benefit from this. 4-H has something to benefit from this. Our school system has something to benefit from this. Kids that can't otherwise do 4-H or experience this with these, because we are considered a rural community, regardless of whether Newton is 20,000 people or not. And I'm really looking forward to moving past this.
Well, two things I see as a major plus, right? So with these programs, the kids that live in Newton proper, that go to our 4 schools here, may or may not be financially able to do 4-H, to have animals at their own home, say chickens. Let's just go with chickens, right? Because they're ducks or geese or whatever. because I know the city allows that already, right? So let's say you have a larger percentage in the Newton proper schools that you don't have in Walton, where kids are disenfranchised from those programs because mom and dad can't help financially.
Yeah.
They can't put out the resources. They don't have the resources to maintain things like that. So why not, plus number one, give the kids that would otherwise not be able to participate in something like that an opportunity to do that in our public education system. The second plus, the second plus is we are a unified school district, right? And a lot of the feedback that I observed and heard during these discussions is we're not unified, but yet we are. And this would be even better as a means or a vein to bring the unity between all the schools and to streamline those project-based learning curriculums and projects.
Well, and here, I know that I've never had this conversation with anybody, so I'm sure this is just going to get blown out of the way or it'll blow people's minds.
Lay it on me.
But I kept seeing posts about Rams, go Rams, go Rams, and I'm thinking, who are the Rams?
Right.
And then I realized, okay, duh. I guess each elementary school has their own mascot or something. Now, this is okay. But I would like for people to consider the fact that this is somewhat problematic, because when we are wanting to unify a community, then, and I know it sounds, my son he smiles about it when we're like, well, they're the Spikes, because that's a part of the Railers.
Oh, right.
But okay, wait, I don't know if anybody's called the Tracks yet, but let's just say we call our elementary schools there, whatever they are, they're the Northridge Tracks. They're this track.
Right.
I'm just throwing it out. But it's the idea that we're already starting with this identity, which is not necessarily bad. So it's good competition, right? Camaraderie, and then move forward. But we're taking all these kids and placing them with their own little identities associated with these schools, and then we're trying to blend them all into one identity together. And I don't know how effective that is, but anyway, we don't need to rest here this long.
Right.
Look good for the future, but it does. The process of Walton being closed is happening, and the day after that decision was made, we have a cybersecurity attack.
Right. Well, the timing is interesting, and conspiracy theorists, Wonder Twins activate here. I always got to bring that in, right? I really, really had to ask myself, is the timing too perfect, right? And so I quickly moved on from that because, I was watching to make sure that everything was being handled and the due diligence we talked about was being conducted. And I was quickly rest assured or appeased or whatever you want to call it, that of course it is. I don't even have to question, really. I mean, honestly, I'm just so proud of our school district, and I'm so glad to have my child here. I just,
couple that all together.
Kudos.
Couple that all together. Right. And that leads us into our Citizen of the Week.
That's right.
And see, this interesting, okay, that we're talking about the school. We're talking about people that invest in the school system. Especially for programs and stuff. Right. And then we have Opportunity Academy here.
That's right.
And well, before we tell everybody who our Citizen of the Week is, our sponsor for the Citizen of the Week is Genova's.
Okay.
Genova's is located in Cedar Village. They are open, Tuesday through Sunday, but it's limited hours on Sunday. There has not been a time when I haven't went into Genova's and had good service.
That's right.
Good food. One thing I can say about Genova's is every time I go in there, and I was just talking to her, I love coming in here because every time I come in here, I order the same thing.
Right.
And I get good service, and it's exactly the same way.
That's
every time. And that's what you want when you go into a place. And they've always been reliable.
That's
always
right.
been reliable.
That's right.
So Genova's, see Rosie, they're the sponsor for this Citizen of the Week. Now, who's the Citizen of the Week, Sissy?
Lori Baymeyer. I'm so sorry.
Beheimer.
Beheimer. Oh,
Beheimer.
My goodness. I am so sorry, Lori. We love you, and your nomination from Cake News Golden Apple Award that you have won, and that is so awesome for your work done at the Opportunity Academy in the Newton School District.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, alternatively, It was called the Newton Alternative School back in the day, or Cooper Education Center.
Okay.
And I attended for a year.
Yeah.
So basically, Lance attended Opportunity Academy for his senior year.
Hey, you know what? It's all about the opportunity.
Yeah.
Right?
And, the people that were there that invested in me were the ones that want to change lives. Mm-hmm. They realize that, man, some of these kids, they got some stuff, but I want to love on them. I want to help them. I want to make sure that we can get them where they need to be.
That's
that
right.
way they can graduate or do whatever they want, get them through this time and move on. She is a wonderful woman for doing that.
Awesome. Well,
absolutely.
Give her a shout out if you see her. Give her a high five.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Or a golden apple.
Well, she already got one of those.
Well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So.
Also, back to back, we do have something interesting that we wanted to cover. But since everybody's been talking about the whole thing, the KOMA violation, and this most recent report, we just wanted to be able to reach out and talk to somebody. We're all everybody who's listening to this program is looking at it from the perspective of here locally, and we wanted to just be able to reach out to somebody who could be able to look at it from a third person perspective. We reached out to a friend of the program, Bob Terry, who has been an attorney since 1981, and just talked to him a little bit briefly. He does have Newton ties. His father was born and raised in Newton, and then his Aunt Maggie Morgan still lives here, and he sees her quite frequently. But Bob, I just want to say thank you for coming on the program. Thank you for, taking the phone call and listening to some of the questions we had and then agreeing to come on the program and maybe answer some of those questions, because I think those are questions that everybody at this point in the community is asking.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and thank you, Lance.
Yeah. But first, you have a very extensive background, almost so much that it would I could read off things for minutes. So just, I know that you're an attorney and have been since 1981. I know that you have a private practice. What's some, I read here that you were general counsel for Farmland Industries. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's awesome. And then a general counsel for Kansas City Southern Railway.
That's also correct.
Okay. So you do have some skin in the game, right? You do look at what's going on in Harvey County and Newton, because I know we talked, and you have a heart for our community. And with all of this that's going on, we've come to this point where there was a lot of accusations made about some of the stuff that was going on with the school board during that fateful day. And then from there, we now have had a response that says that there were no KOMA violations. And I think there's just a lot of confusion around all that. So just weigh in on this March 28th decision from the Sedgwick County DA as far as why in goodness gracious was Wichita or Sedgwick County the one looking at this in the first place?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and that normally would be the case. But the way the official action started for the review was with a complaint that there was a violation of the Kansas Open Meetings Act. And that complaint goes to the state attorney general. And the normal process is the state attorney general will then ask the DA from the location where the violation allegedly occurred, Harvey County, and ask that DA to investigate the complaint.
Okay.
In this case, she felt that because she had a working relationship with, I guess, several members of the school board, that it wouldn't be appropriate for her to look at the question. And so she deferred from that assignment. And at that point, the attorney general assigned it to the Sedgwick County DA. Obviously, he's in the area, but close to Harvey County, but not exactly from Harvey County.
Okay.
So that's how it landed in his lap to consider the issue.
Okay, so kind of trying to be transparent and be above board. That was the cycle, that was the process. So moving forward, there's a KOMA. There's people that have reported that there might be a KOMA violation, and we're here at the point in time in which the Sedgwick DA is looking at it. What exactly is? Can you kind of break down just KOMA and give sort of what KOMA is for the audience to base whether or not things were in order or not?
Sure. The Kansas Open Meetings Act it was enacted to make sure that governmental boards that are doing the public's business conduct their deliberations in a manner that's open to the public. So the normal course, a board meeting would be held. The media and the public would be informed of the board meeting and would be allowed to attend and listen to the deliberations and see how the business is conducted. And that's just considered part of good government. And so that's what the purpose of the act is.
Okay.
And there are exceptions. There are certainly issues that can come before a board where it wouldn't be appropriate to have the meeting open to the public. And examples of that would be, like was the case here, if the matter involved for a school board a particular student or a student disciplinary procedure. Well, it wouldn't be appropriate to talk about a particular student in front of the world or the public. So there's some exceptions to the open meeting requirement. And the issue here is whether that he considered was whether the circumstances that existed that day and the topics that were to be covered were appropriate to be done in executive session and not open to the public.
Okay. So you've had a chance to read over the report, I'll call it that, or the final report, to where it says that there was no KOMA violations. When we get into this, I know that there was a lot of people that had questions about many different areas or things that were done during it. And so when I read this, kind of where I got to the point of really wanting to get somebody else outside of my wheelhouse, and with way more knowledge than what I have, to be able to talk to me and tell me, how is it that with all of these things that seem to be not up to standard, that then still yet they never potentially violated any problems? I mean, when we talk about conduct and the open meeting, how do these KOMA's violations work? Is there just a big report that's done, or is it how? I'm just confused, I guess, if you could help me clarify.
Sure. The DA from Sedgwick County addressed some of the issues that I think that came out of the meeting of February 22nd.
Okay.
He did an extensive investigation. He interviewed, it sounds like, all of the members of the board and some other folks as well that were involved. And I think he did a thorough job. So, but during the course of that, he heard about other issues. And he references those in his report. Okay. And the first issue that he references was the concern that there was not 48 hours notice given to the board members to call a special meeting. Well, Kansas law requires that for a special meeting to be called, each board member must be given at least 48 hours notice of the meeting. Well, that did not occur here, and that can be cured if every board member signs a waiver of the 48-hour notice period. And if they all do that, then the meeting can proceed despite the lack of 48 hours. In this case, I believe that 4 of the board members signed the waiver, and at least 2 members of the board did not sign the waiver. So a question arises is whether if you don't have all of the board members signing the waiver, whether you can legitimately have a meeting.
Okay.
And that's an open question. And the district attorney references that issue having been kind of raised with him in the course of his investigation. He also references and heard about potential conflicts of interest on the part of one or more board members. So that was an issue that was raised with him. as he conducted the investigation. And probably the third one that is kind of worth mentioning is whether he was asked to consider whether any members of the board may have impermissibly directed an administrator in how they should exercise discretion under the newly implemented policy as it applied to a particular student. In short, the question was if the board takes official action and sets a policy and provides discretion to the administrators in how to enforce that policy, that's one thing. It's another thing to kind of leave your board seat behind and directly instruct an administrator in how they should exercise their discretion. So that was another issue that was raised with him during the course of his investigation. And he handled all of those kind of extra issues very directly. He described how he came to become involved with a matter that has Harvey County ties, and says that he got involved by the request to handle this situation under KOMA. Now, what I've just described to you as these other issues, those aren't KOMA issues. And he says, I'm here to look at the KOMA complaint, and that's what I'm going to do. I understand that these other issues have been raised, but I'm not going to consider them. And with that, he drops them and moves on and writes his analysis of the KOMA complaint.
Wow, that's very interesting. And Sissy was nodding at me on that. I mean, I was starting to brainstorm. So I've come to hear what you say is that as far as what the Sedgwick County DA was looking at, there were no KOMA violations technically. But as far as what was covered in that report, like I'm listening to what you're saying and I'm thinking to myself, well, that comes down to not necessarily a KOMA violation, but whether or not I want one of my elected officials just to be conducting themselves in that manner. And it's kind of black and white right there, isn't it?
Well, yes.
Not to put words in your mouth. Yeah.
Not to weigh into the intricacies of that. I think the point of that is, as you look at this report, and it's a well-written report, it's a thoughtful report. But some of the issues that probably are of most interest to the public simply were not addressed in this report.
Okay.
And he gave his reason for that, and that was that these were not technically part of the KOMA investigation, and he just wasn't going to add to the list of issues that he was going to consider. So
Bob,
he very expressly just left them alone.
Right. Bob, hi, Sissy C here. Question on that. Is it possible that the reason he chose not to is obviously they came up during the investigation, but because they were not an official complaint against the statute?
Well, he was given a very direct assignment from the Attorney General as I read this, and I believe this is right. We have a KOMA complaint, and because the Harvey County DA is not in a position to consider it, we would like you to consider the KOMA complaint. And so he took that in as his sole responsibility, and he noted that, look, I'm not even connected with Harvey County, and it was clear he didn't feel comfortable going beyond the very narrow question that he was asked as an outsider. He's not from Harvey County, and he just wasn't going to kind of broaden his inquiry or opine on a situation that he wasn't specifically asked to consider.
Well, that's a lot of good information, and we're going to provide with our guest this documentation we have in the past, but we're also going to do it again of the DA's report. So maybe with someone reads that or has, coupled with what you've provided here, it helps weigh in on a situation for us to individually process what happened and be able to just move forward as a community in reference to that. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Glad to do it, Lance.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And you have a wonderful day. We're getting into springtime, and it should be enjoyable for about everybody.
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Thanks, Lance.
Thank you.